Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome. We are on a new cycle starting tonight. We just had Simchas Torah, Shabbat Bereshis. We had a whole new beginning. 5786. Whatever happened in 5785 is happened 5785. Now we are on a new year, a whole new reality, a whole new experience. Hopefully, everybody had an amazing high holidays and Simchas Torah celebration. So we are ready to take it to the next step. So it happens to be that Bereshit, we didn't have much time to study Bereshit because Simchas Torah, when we start reading Bereshit, was on a Wednesday. And then from Wednesday, we went straight to Thursday and Shabbat. So we are straight into Noach. So anybody who wants to hear about Bereshit, you got to come back next year. Next year, it's actually going to be a whole week of studying Bereshit because Simchas Torah is meant to be next year on Shabbat.
So why is that?
Come another time.
Okay.
The Simchas Torah is going to happen next year on Shabbat,
Okay.
and we are going to have a whole week to prepare for Bereshit, which is going to be a whole week of study. But this week we are going straight into Noach. Everybody is familiar with the story of Noach, right? Noach's Ark, the Mabul, the flood. And through the years, we spoke many, many different things about Noach. I would like to spend the little time that we have together tonight to concentrate on just one and one only subject in this story of Noach. So Noach was saved. Noach is the first survivor. Together with them, the Torah tells us was his three sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and their wives. And at the same time, God ordered Noach to bring in some of the animals, perhaps a sample of each animal with them in the ark. Those that have the Chumash in front of you, we're not going to read the verses just for a reference. In chapter 7, verse 1, verse 2, God tells them, you come in with your entire household into the ark, and from the future to be kosher animals, because the Torah was not given yet, I would like you to have 7 by 7, which means 7 male and 7 female. And then from the ones who are going to remain non-kosher, I would like you to bring in 2, male and female. Perfect. What about the birds? Verse 3, גם מעוף השמיים 7 זכר ונקבה. Of the birds of the heavens also, 7 by 7, male and female. So we have birds, we have animals, which animals usually in the Torah's language, when it says behema, behema refers to a domestic animal, but it also includes chaya, which is a non-domestic animal, which is included in behema. For example, a kosher deer will be counted as a non-domestic animal, which was brought into the ark together with the kosher cow or sheep, 7 of each. From the non-kosher ones, 2. And then the story begins. There was the flood, the 40 days, the 40 nights, and Noach is there in the ark. What happens with the creeping animals? They are non-kosher. Look at verse 14. They are mentioned very clearly. Heima, v'kol hachaya lemina, v'kol habehima lemina, v'kol haremes aromes al haaretz lemineu, v'kol ha'of lemineu, kol tzipor, kol kanaf. And then every beast and every animal, a creeping thing that creeps on the earth, okay, also came in. So you had the cockroaches, and you had the turtles and all kinds of beautiful things, and every fowl and every bird. Party time. Everybody, the entire kingdom of the animal kingdom will all joining in the ark. Me obviously missing the one which you saw also on your title on class today. The one who are not mentioned is fish. No fish. No fish. So you're going to say fish. What can you do to the fish? You're going to bring us flood, and they're going to have more water. More water, it's merrier. It's fish. So fish can never get wrong. So you can't start up. You're fighting fish, which is not even a fight, right? They are there always. But it's not so simple, because if you look on the story of the flood, it's clearly that the water was not the regular life water which fish would enjoy, the tranquility of water, the source of life, but rather those fish, those waters were very hot boiling water. Mayim rotchim, as Rashi brings from the Medrash, they were not simple, exciting water that they swimming through as, Seattle Aquarium. This is hot boiling water that if you are present around the ark while the flood is coming down, you can be fish and Mr. Fish and General Fish, and you can be gefilte fish or whatever fish you are, you will be destroyed. You will be destroyed by this streaming hot boiling water. You're dead. So what happened to the fish? They must have escaped somewhere. And if they didn't escape, they must have survived, because otherwise we would have them mentioned in the ark. They would have been counted in a sample. So as we go on further, you go to verse 22. Here we're already getting a hint. What happened to the fish? What is verse 22? Let's read verse 21 and 22. This is after the flood. This is already going a year, press forward a year later. What happens is verse 21, very clear. Vayigva kol basar aromes al haaretz, ba'of, ba'beima, b'chaya, ubechol asher et hashoretz al haaretz, ve'kol ha'adam. All flesh that moves upon the earth expired. Among the birds, the animals, the beasts, and all the creeping things that creep upon the earth, and all mankind. Everything is destroyed. Fully, entirely, isolation, this big tsunami came about and wiped everything away. It continues even further. One more description. Verse 22. Kol asher nishmat ruach chaim be'apav, all in whose nostrils was the breath of spirit of life, mikol asher b'charava, of everything that was on land, mesu, died. And it goes even further. Vayimach et kol hayekum, and he, referring to God, wiped out all existence that was on the face of the ground. Asher al pnei adama. And again mentioning, me'adam ad be'ima, ad remes, v'ad of hashamayim, vayimachu min haaretz, from men to animals, to creeping things, and to the birds of the heavens. And they were all blotted out from the earth. Vayishael ach Noach, v'asher ito bateva. Only Noach survived, and those with him in the ark. Everything is gone. Everything is gone. So you read verse 22 again, and the Gemara, in at least 3 places in the Talmud, makes the same emphasis by telling us how to look at this pasuk. Let's read it again, verse 22. Kol asher nishmat, ruach chaim be'apav, all in whose nostrils was the breath of the spirit of life. Mikol asher becharava, of everything that was on charava means dry land. Meitu. Says the Gemara, the Talmud tells us of Chizda. What does the verse tell you? Who died? Only those who were on dry land. Charava. Those who were bayam, those who were in the oceans, those who were in the waters, did not die. They simply did not die. And this is the clear emphasis that the Talmud teaches us. It makes it very clear. And Rashi, actually, those who can read Rashi can see it. Rashi quotes it in his commentary to this verse. Asher becharava, says Rashi, velo dagim. That was on the land, but not fish, shebayam, not the fish of the sea. They did not die. Which makes us obviously understand that if they did not die, it's not because God somehow likes fish better than he likes meat, right? It's not that he favors fish and that's why they didn't die. We have to go back why everybody else died. Why did everybody else die? So the verse says right in the beginning of Noach. God says, go back to verse 12. Vayar Elokim et haaretz, God saw the earth, ve'inei nishchata, and behold, it was corrupted. Ki ishchit kol batar, et darko al haaretz, for all flesh et corrupted its way upon the earth. So clearly, the Mabul, the flood, came as a response to what?
Corruption.
A response to corruption. If somebody escapes the flood, what does it tell us? That they are not corrupted.
Why? Why weren't they
We'll come
corrupt?
to it in 1 second. We're going to find out there too. Good question. But one thing, let's first establish the concept. The concept is clearly, in all the verses, fish are not mentioned. Not once. Fish are not mentioned. Then there is a verse which clearly says that those who died were the ones becharava, which means of dry land, which further emphasizes that in order to be punished by the flood, it's only for those who were creatures on face earth. Again, excluding fish.
But why does it say Charava and not Yabasha?
So it's a different name for Yabasha. Charava means dry land. So then you wonder a second, so what happened to those fish? So let's see who was punished. You go back to the original story, and the story begins, and clearly punishment is a consequence for corruption. If somebody is not punished, 1 + 1 is 2, right, Ben? Right? AI, everything is still 2. Let me make sure that I don't know anymore. Today you have to confirm everything again. So it's still right. They were not corrupted. Were the animals corrupted? Yes.
Yeah.
That's clearly, that's why they were punished. It says, Ishchitz kol basar et darko al haaretz. Says Rashi, kol basar, all flesh. It doesn't say kol adam. Kol flesh. By the way, fish also are flesh. Said Rashi, but I mentioned. Said Rashi, even afilu beima chaya ve'ov, even domestic animals, beasts and birds, had relations with those which were not on their species.
Doesn't it say also pure animals and those would not be pure because?
It doesn't say pure, non-pure animals. Also said that they brought as a sample to the what's it called? But all animals, even the pure ones, also behaved inappropriately. The reason that God for 7 is a separate discussion, but it doesn't say anywhere that the chicken behaved nicer, because if they would behave nicer, they wouldn't be destroyed. The only ones whom we find not considered behaving corruptly are weren't punished by the flood.
How were the uncorrupted turtles distinguished from the corrupted?
There was no uncorrupted turtles, except these 2,
Right.
which made their way into the ark. And could be even, I'm not sure, could be, I never looked into it, but in my mind, it's always in the back of my mind to consider, could be they were corrupted and still survived as a sample for the future. Yeah, it could be, I'm not sure that aspect, but could be there were 2 exceptional ones, 2 Hasidim.
What about the boats?
The what?
The boats.
Bugs?
Boats.
Boats. They were all depends. A boat doesn't say the boat that were destroyed. Could be they were, could be not. In the movie, they look destroyed. I don't know. Depends how strong of a boat you have.
Said if it was the water, they were okay.
Exactly. So could be
Why?
they both survived. They don't. It wasn't a. It wasn't a. It wasn't a punishment against the earth itself, so to speak. It was against those who behaved corruptly on the face of the earth. Obviously, when destruction arrives, when there's a tsunami, buildings are going to get collapsed, and cars and boats are going to get swiped away with the water. There's going to be consequences.
But did he say?
And matter of fact, there was like one of the signs that there is time to maybe leave the ark because they saw a branch sticking out over, on outside of the water. So they realized, oh, there must be a sign of life. But maybe most of the branches probably did not exist anymore.
But did he say he sealed the ark? He sealed
The
it.
ark was sealed. It is not about the ark. He asked about boats in general.
But it would have been
He asked about the cruises going to Alaska. What happened to that? Exactly.
And also why all these animals and only Noah and his family? He's the only one who wasn't corrupt.
Yes, that's where the Torah begins this parsha. The Torah begins, he says, everything destroyed, and I'm done, I'm done, I'm done, I'm done. And then he says, I'm going to protect you because you are found righteous from all the here. Look on chapter 7, verse 1. Vayemer Hashem leNoach, Hashem says to Noach, come to the ark, you and all your households, for it is you that I have seen to be righteous before me in this generation. One Noach. There's one Noach. Okay. So the question is, clearly we come to a conclusion that the fish are different, exceptional. Furthermore, just to emphasize the idea of the clearly that says the ones who are on earth to exclude the ones who are in the water. So it's because God says also to Noah, I'm going to destroy the world, they were all corrupted. This is what it says. I am about to bring a flood, water upon the earth. Leshachet kol basar, to destroy all flesh in which there is a breath of life. Kol asher ba'aretz yigva, everything that is on earth shall expire. The verse mentions twice the concept of aretz. Aretz means land. I'm going to bring a flood of water on the earth to destroy everything who has a spirit of life. What is again the emphasis? Kol asher ba'aretz yigva. You're already talking about the aretz, the mabul, the flood is only going to affect the aretz, the land. Why are you mentioning again kol asher ba'aretz yigva? Everything which is on earth is going to expire. So the commentaries say that's exactly what Rashi says and what the Talmud means to say, that the corruption and so too the response to corruption, which is the flood, clearly impacted only those who were on earth. Fish were excluded. From here, we're moving to a topic which is not necessarily part of this story, but rather more a little bit of mystical and a little bit of practical Jewish law. And this is, what some commentaries actually say, that everybody knows that the Shabbat experience is by also having a meal. Yes, we pray extra, or we study extra, but there is a special honorable meal in honor of Shabbat. The Torah expects us to indulge ourselves on Shabbat, the karata la Shabbat oneg. The prophet Isaiah says, you should call Shabbat a day of delight. Ligdosh Hashem mechubad. The holy day of God should be mechubad, should be honored. How do you indulge yourself on Shabbat and with what you honor it? So our sages tell us a big part of it is simply to honor Shabbat with a respectful meal. This is not a time for a McDonald's sandwich. This is never a time, but even for a tuna sandwich, kosher, but rather it should be specifically made an honorable meal with a table cover, with special dishes, just like you are celebrating a major significant event. This has to happen every Shabbat with a specific order of kiddush with challah, with dishes. One of the honoring dishes, says the Talmud. This is going back to Talmud times, 2,000 years ago. This is the original recorded tradition. Bameh me'ango. With what are you indulging the Shabbat? The Talmud mentions specifically fish. Fish. You make sure that you have fish. I'm not talking someone who is allergic to fish. There's all kinds of situations people are allergic. I met a Jew who's allergic to tefillin. He can't have any leather on his hands. It's not a joke. Very unfortunate. If his hands touches leather, he creates a eczema. I know people don't put on film without being allergic to it, but I'm saying there's such a concept. So people have an allergy to fish. Matter of fact, today was a yahrzeit of my wife's uncle. His name was Yosef Yitzchak Ben Shena Zelda, and he passed away on the 30th of Tishrei, which was today, and he was allergic to fish. We used to come sometimes to eat in his house after I was married. We all ate fish. His wife made fish, but he did not touch fish. Interesting. Let it be in memory of him, the class tonight. When it comes to fish, our sages tell us something very interesting. Why is it so important to have fish on Shabbos? Because fish are representing those creatures who followed God's direction, especially when there was a massive population, and the popular thing was to do what? Was to behave immorally. That was the in thing. And they exceptionally chose not to follow their friends to the point that they survived. So there comes the Holy Shabbat. The entire creation gets elevated. In every person gets an neshama yeser, additional soul. So it's time to be more refined and closer to Almighty God. So we are
Rabbi Farkash, you're on mute. Can't hear anything.
Oh, thank
Thank
you. That's what they call a bat call. So when it comes to people, people make choices, right? People make choices, and you get consequences according to the choices you made. But when it comes to animals, what choices do animals make? They don't make any choices. So why in general, why altogether would animals be punished? He says something interesting. This is based on a famous Kabbalistic concept that we spoke during the years in the classes, and I'm sure many of you, if not all of you, heard it. You heard the concept of Gilgul. Gilgul means reincarnation. This is not coming from India. The idea of reincarnation is a Jewish concept, which is in Kabbalah, the Zohar HaKadosh, Parshat Mishpatim, discusses it in specifics, in details. There's an old book by Reb Chaim Vital, which was the student of the Ari, which goes into very specified ideas how reincarnation works. But the main idea is, which is an important idea, that you have a soul who finishes and completes a full cycle of life till 120 healthy years, and is involved in doing everything that God wants him to do. But sometimes you have a glitch here, you have a little glitch there, and the soul who was sent to this world to accomplish a mission is developing a dent or a stain, depends on which level of deviation the soul took. But you develop sometimes a crack. It can be on all kinds of levels, depends how much the person was involved in what. And then God looks on the soul after 120 years, and you did a major job, but we have over here a few stains that we need to try to perfect. What am I going to do with you? So there's all kinds of consequences up there. One of them is, let's send you back. Try to live through another life. And hopefully you can have an opportunity to fix the problem, to take care of it. This is a famous concept, which again, I would rather not spend the time tonight in discussing it, but everybody's familiar with the concept and with the ideas behind it. And the Kabbalah teaches us that it's not only that the souls are getting reincarnated in human beings. Like I may be a soul of something which I existed before, and I'm here to go through something in this lifetime. It's very possible from time to time that a soul may be reincarnated even in an animal. Even an animal. You have an animal, it can be, if it's a lucky animal, it's a kosher animal, and you have a little soul which is deer ending up in some type of chicken or cow. The suffering for a soul not to allow itself to be experienced. This is like being jailed, being in prison. You are a human soul in a animal body. So that mental state, that craziness which affects the soul, is itself considered as consequences which bring some cleanliness to the soul. It's like a punishment, one of those punishments if you want to consider it. There's many details and specifics into the subject, but they end up in animals too.
Fish?
Oh, fish. Who ends up in the fish? Oh, very good. Yeah, you said right. So they come. Yeah, Yonah was not reincarnated in a fish. What ends up in fish, and the Kabbalah writes very clearly that because of their nature, which we're going to discuss soon too, hopefully, fish end up with the souls of those tzaddikim, very special righteous people. They are the ones that need sometimes a little correction here and there. By the way, to be reincarnated sometimes is a credit, meaning you did so good that you just need the little. I can tell you a story. Again, maybe a little personal story. The Rebbe didn't say that that's the reason, but I will tell you a story. Okay, I had a sister. Her name was Chaim Mushka. She was named after the Rebbe's wife. She was born in 1988, the same year that the Rebbe's wife passed away. She was named after. She lived in this world for 3 months and she passed away, creep dead. This month, Cheshvan is going to be a yahrzeit. So when she passed, she was born in Elul, she passed away in Cheshvan. Okay? At that, a little time before that, there was another neighbor who, she passed away at that time. The Rebbe told his secretary to fax over to my family, to my parents, a letter that you wrote just a few months earlier to someone who had experienced a similar situation. And the letter is printed. It's one of the Rebbe's books today. It wasn't written to my parents. The Rebbe wrote it to a family in Cleveland, Ohio. But he told the secretary to forward the same letter to Rabbi Mr. Farkash in Jerusalem. What is the main point in that letter? That they wrote to the Rebbe, complaining obviously, bitterly, why did they have to go through such a difficult experience? And one of the points the Rebbe makes, that all the souls today are not new. They are all what we call in today America recycled for the purpose of Gilgal, for tikkun, for correction. Sometimes there's a soul which is so holy and so accomplished, it just needs something very small, something very small to fix in the journey development of the soul. Lucky are those parents that God entrusted you to take care of that soul so you can keep it for that short time knowing that the mission is going to be accomplished. Go figure. I cannot tell it to a parent. Everyone should have blessed kid to live till 120 gesunde Jahren, healthy years. But the idea. The only context the Rebbe spoke about the Holocaust, the Rebbe never explained the Holocaust. The Rebbe was very against people attributing the Holocaust with the misbehavior of Jews in Germany, and he was very, very adamant about not to try to justify, so to speak, God's behavior. It's okay to remain with a good question. Why did you do it? Let's keep on asking why and ask again why. So you shouldn't do it again. There's one context that I saw in one of the Rebbe's letters that it does kind of bring in the Holocaust, 6 million, into a context of kind of, perhaps I shouldn't say the word rationale, but kind of putting it in a context of insight and philosophy, is reincarnation. Souls who needed to who came for a purpose and kind of, doesn't matter. Let's move on. Fish get only tzaddikim. Says the Yismach Moshe, name of the Moshe Teitelbaum, writes in this book, clearly, says like this. The Mishnah tells in Pirkei Avot, in Ethics of Our Father says, the 10 generations from Adam of Noach, God is prolonging his desire to get rid of them. He's controlling himself for 10 generations until finally he brings the flood. So he says, so who was punished by the flood? If 10 generations of sinners are being changed, people are dying with their sin, and then comes the flood. So for who is the flood?
The offerings of those.
No. The reincarnations, the Gilgulim of those who messed up for 10 generations, because if not, there is no punishment for them. If it's only for their offerings, it's like saying, okay, you wronged, but I let it go. You behaved wrong, I didn't let go. Now I had it. And who is the one who gets the I had it? Never. The last one that was there when the parent couldn't control himself. One child making him really crazy, but it happens to be he leaves the house. The second child, the third child, finally comes the youngest child who goes on their nerves. But at that point, it explodes. And the mother says, I had it with you. You had it with me? What about the 9 kids before me? Happens to be you are the one here, so you're going to get it. That's not the way God works. If there are 10 generations who are angering God, right? So were they punished or not? Says the Yismach Moshe. From the Kabbalah, for sure they were punished. How? Because those souls were reincarnated into the next generation and into the next generation. So what is the insight over here? Listen to that. This is mind-boggling to see what we dealt with. Meaning, they were sent back to do what? Why? What's the purpose of being sent back? For correction. And when you send back, not only you don't correct, but you are messing up the next generation too, only shows you how evil you are. And that's what the flood came for. Says the Yismach Moshe, but remember, who comes into fish? Tzaddikim. How many tzaddikim? How many righteous people were there? No, we know one was Shalach, Chanoch. The Torah lists 2 or 3 righteous people. There were no righteous people to be reincarnated in fish. So all the animals who contained reincarnated souls of sinners of 10 generations had to be destroyed. The fish, which hosts only tzaddikim, did not have anybody incarnated in them. So they had to continue to be alive. You get it? Corruption of the animals was not the animals of themselves. It was the souls which were incarnated in those animals. But which souls get incarnated in animals? Bad people. Those who behave badly, they are so bad that even when they enter the animals, they can influence the animal or to be in relationship with a different species, follow their own personal evil behavior. So instead of correcting themselves, they are even taking their hosts, so to speak, which they were incarnated, and messing them up too. Okay, gotta get rid of you. But fish are not part of this deal. Fish are ready to welcome souls, but only tzaddikim. There's not tzaddikim to be reincarnated. They're not tzaddikim to be reincarnated at that time. They were very, very holy tzaddikim, as Shela, but he did not need reincarnation. He was a full righteous soul, so he was perfect. It's interesting that the same Yismach Moshe in a later Parsha, Yero, when he talks about the angels coming to visit Abraham. So he says he offered them butter, milk, cow. So he says, my teacher, the Rabbi of Lublin, asked me, what happened to fish? Why wouldn't they offer fish? They were offered everything but not fish. Then he continues also later, Jacob makes a whole sacrifice in the mountain. So it says, by Yisbach, Tzoinu Bokor, again, cattle. What about fish? Usually when there is a meal mentioned in honor of Shabbat, in honor of holidays, appropriate meal as fish. How comes his teacher, the Seer of Lublin, asked him, he was a student. He was originally not a Chassid. He was brought into Hasidism by his son-in-law, and he went to study in Lublin, but the famous Seer of Lublin, Rabbi Yaakov Yitzchak Horowitz. So the teacher asks him, he brings in the book over here, Parshat Vayera, Shalani Moria Dakim. Why is there no fish? You know what I told him? I told him very simple. Most of the tzaddikim, righteous people, are being incarnated in fish. But this has to be small tzaddikim. Meaning, there are tzaddikim which they can mess up sometimes, so they need to be reincarnated, so they end up in fish. But big tzaddikim, tzaddikim dolim, They don't need anything correction. They are perfect. They are clear. So he told his teacher, בימי אברהם, in the times of Abraham, לא היה רק הצדיקים הגדולים. There was no small righteous people. There were only very big righteous people. Those big righteous people, they did not need to end up in fish. If there is no purpose in the fish, why should I eat it? In other words, the only reason that somebody Jewish fish is to elevate the souls which were incarnated in the fish. But that this happens to tzaddikim, which have to go through some correction. But if there is not tzaddikim which have to go through correction in Abraham's times, then there's no need for fish. That's why fish was not offered. In other words, today, when we see Dan by Amilu, we ate fish, there's a reason. Because we are expected to elevate the sparks. There's actually a beautiful story that the Alter Rebbe of Shneur Zalman was once sitting at a Shabbat meal with some of his Chassidim. It says the name, Yitzchak something, and he ate fish, and a bone of the fish got stuck in his throat. And the Alter Rebbe of Shneur Zalman reacted. He says, to swallow a tzaddik, you have to know how to do it. You know?
I'm sure that helped.
What? Sure it did. The tzaddikim had all kinds. The Maggid of Mezrich, which was the Rebbe of the Alter Rebbe, he was always on Friday standing, watching his Rebbetzin making the fish. He was personally involved. He used to pick the piece of fish that would be designated for him, put like a little rope over it, a little string over it. Once it ended up at the Alter Rebbe's plate, the Alter Rebbe ate it up. The whole story about it. But there was something with the fish, you know. They say, which is Brit Bodama de Ben Ishchai, האוכל דג ביום דג, ינצל מדג. If you eat fish, dag means a fish. Biyom in the day of dag. Dag is a fish, but dag is two letters in Hebrew, which make up the numerical value of 7. Dalet is 4, Gimel is 7. And then dag also means din genom, the judgment of hell. So it's kind of play of words. Whoever eats dag, biyom dag, you eat fish at the day of 7, you're going to be saved from dag, from the what's it called, from the punishment of Gehenna. But again, so what is it about fish? It's all wonderful and amazing and nice stories. We can go on with more stories, but what is it about fish? So here we have to get into something a little deeper even. In the reality of the world, again, what Kabbalah talks about, there is a world called Alma de Iskasia, means the world which is hidden and covered. And then there is Alma de Itgalia, the world which is revealed and exposed. Meaning to say, every creature on the world is exposed. All animals are walking on the face of the earth. Even the trees, they are growing out of the earth. A potato, a bulldog, you have to climb into the ground sometimes. But even that, sticking out is, he's like looking at you. You know where to go pick it. What is the one creature which is hidden and covered in his source of life, and you don't see is the fish? Matter of fact, the moment they come out of the water, they die. So fish represents the type of creature which is connected and alive because of his connection with his source of life. The fish doesn't walk around and say, I have my own source of life, but I can also exist on my own. Every animal walks around on the face of the earth, like every human, and it doesn't feel that he's tied to somewhere. Some suppose me, I'm the only one. I made myself. I'm a self-existence. The fish, you call him out of the water. What does the fish tell you? Crazy. The Talmud makes a story. It's a parable, but the Talmud says a story that it was during the Roman decree against Torah study, and it was somebody was teaching, Rabbi Akiva was teaching Torah, and the and the friendly neighbor, so to speak, went over and they said, "What are you doing? They're going to get you. They're going to kill you. They're going to punish you. The government does not let study." And what did he say? Take a look at the fish. And he told them, "You know the story with the fish? That a very clever animal called the shual. You know what the shual is in English? A fox. Came to the fish and he said, 'What are you doing in water?' 'Come party with me downtown. We'll take you with me. There's a whole celebration tonight. Come out.' Sitting in the same water, running around back and forth. 'Come with me.' And what did the fish responded to the fox? And he said, 'Oh, you are considered the clever and the smart animal. You're not so smart. If we will walk out of this place, we will be dead. This is our source of life. What are you inviting us to places that doesn't belong to us?' Said Rabbi Akiva, 'You want me to stop learning? Torah is our life. Want me to detach myself from life? This is the breath of life. This is our channel of life. Can't do it. It's over.' In other words, the whole concept of a fish, when you reflect on the fish, and when you look at the fish, and you wonder, what is it about the fish? So you should know that the fish is a reminder to each and every one of us the importance of being connected to the source of life. You look at the fish, and it's like a meditation procedure. I'm eating fish in honor of Shabbos, and I'm looking at fish to remind myself that I'm like a fish who, first of all, need to realize that I have a source of life which energizes me. And if I detach myself from that source, God forbid, I'm dead. And what is the source of life? Godliness and Torah. That's what the source of fish is. And that's what fish represent. Kabbalistically, the reason why we eat fish on Shabbos is for this very same reason, that the fish obviously contains those righteous souls that we mentioned earlier, the sparks, but the fish is associated with representing and allowing us to reflect on that which does not get destroyed by flood, because it knows where and how and what it belongs to. It's a phenomenon that, you look at fish, it's a fish, it's a fish. No, not every fish is sushi, and not every gefilte is they say, how do you identify a gefilte fish in the ocean or in the river? So they say, to identify, you see that it's growing a carrot on his nose. Anyway, the point is, whether it's dag Morocai or gefilte or whitefish, whatever taste of fish you have, the mitzvah of eating it on Shabbos is not only because it's a way of indulging the Shabbos. Because if it's only to indulge Shabbos, you're going to say, okay, I'm not indulging myself with fish. I would rather have macaroni and cheese. You're indulging yourself on it on Shabbos because you want to identify with what the fish represents. Matter of fact, at the ultimate meal, when Mashiach is going to come, you have concepts that the Talmud talks about Seudat Mashiach, the meal of Mashiach. And there's going to be a serving of fish. And it's the only fish which his name is actually mentioned in Scripture. By the way, the fish is the only creature that Adam did not give him no names. If you go back to last week's Parsha, Bereshit, all the animals are passing by him, the birds, everybody is being given a name, no mentioning a fish. And the commentators say, what happened to the fish? So some say, you name something that you can call to. The fish, the moment you call him out by name, there's no more fish, right? So why should you name him altogether? But the main reason is that there is no name for the fish, because the fish are representing this idea of neshamot, of souls, which are actually aware constantly of their source of life, of godliness. They don't need to be identified with their own personal name. Nuneyam. I don't need to be identified as this name and that name. It's not about me. It's about who am I connected to, and who I'm representing. That's what the fish is. So it says that the Mashiach is going to come. There is one fish, which is the only fish, which even the name is not really a name identifying him. It's a name called Leviathan. Leviathan, which the Kabbalah writes that the reason it's called Leviathan is not a name because fish have no names. Why is it called Leviathan? Leviathan is the same reason why Levi was called Levi. Leviathan has the same letters of Levi. Why was Levi called Levi? When Leah gave birth to Levi, she had a third child, and she said, Apa'am yilave ishi elai. Now my husband is going to escort me. Meaning, there was a issue there was a Rachel, a Rachel that Jacob wanted to marry. He was smuggled in a Leah, and Leah keeps on trying to find, when are we confirming that I am the wife that you love and you are connected? And she had a third child. She said, oh, apam, this time Ilavei Shielai. I mean, simply speaking, when you have two children, the husband tells the wife, you have two kids, you have two hands, take care on two of them. And you have a third child, you can't say anymore, rabbits and take care of them. I only have two hands, three kids, and the husband has to help, right? But Apamilavei Shielai means the husband is going to connect to me, to escort me. So the word livui, escorting, is a reflection of connection. And that's what the Kabbalah tells us, that that fish, which is going to be eaten or celebrated at the time of Mashiach, is a fish called Leviathan, because it will represent the time and the era when we are all going to escort God, and God is going to escort us. We are not going to be separate anymore. That's what the Leviathan is, livui, escorting and connection. That's what the Leviathan is. So you can imagine when it comes a Shabbos, and many books wrote about it, by the way. The Ismach Moshe is the one who talks about, specifically about the Gilgulim, the reincarnation, but he's not the only one. There is other books. By the way, just happens to be I'm a descendant of this author, a ninth generation. He had a daughter, Hannah, and Hannah had a daughter, had a son, Anzelik, and Anzelik had a daughter, Rachma, and Rachma had a son, Pinchas Leibish, who had a daughter, Hinda, who had a daughter, Liba, my grandmother, and Liba, my mother, Rachel, and then I'm Mordechai. Doesn't make me anything special, but happens to be, I like to study his book because it's my favorite. But the point is that when you comes on a Shabbos like this, and you learn the Parsha, and you know that the whole purpose of the flood was obviously not just a punishment, right? Obviously it was a punishment, but at the same time, God was looking to begin a new reality, right? That's why it says it's like the whole world being dumped into a big mikveh, and let's start over again. Let's purify it. And after all the insights, so you learn and you find out that in this whole chaos of Mabul, there is still a little silent creature. By the way, we call them the silent creatures, right? The world of silent, the fish. And it took for commentaries to reflect on it and to think, Manishtano, what happened? And you learn about Gilgal, and you learn about delighting the Shabbos, and you learn about Leviathan, and you learn about Neshamas, which are called fish, because their only reality is godliness. Can you imagine? Like I once said, imagine you're walking down North Subway and you see a fish walking on the sidewalk. Ever thought? Can you imagine a fish walking on the sidewalk or on the road? Huh? You would never see a fish walking. Why? Because you say a fish belongs in water. But there are people which they are referred by the Kabbalah as Nuneyam. They are like fish in the ocean, but they are the souls which they are attuned with one reality, godliness. That's the only thing they know. When you see them walking down North Up, they are fish walking on dry land. The dry land represents the ones who are exposed, they look at themselves as they are soul beings, and the hidden represent the neshamas, which are tzaddikim. They are walking here, but they are not here. They are somewhere else. So the lesson of this Parsha is very simple. First of all, always after Wednesday will come Shabbos. Can't escape it. When it comes the first Shabbos Noach, and we learn about the fish, and everybody is obviously involved in honoring Shabbos, make sure that you have a nice piece of fish for couple Shabbos. If you like a filter, let it be. If you like dag Morocai, let that be. If you like whitefish, herring, salmon. Oh, I forgot about the salmon. That's right. Salmon is also fish. You know, they say in Yiddish, when there is no fish, is herring also fish. But whatever you like. The main idea is that you have to honor Shabbos. And when you look on the fish, you should know that you're eating the fish with a purpose. It might be, you can never know. The Ari Kadosh writes, with this I'm going to conclude. The Holy Ari writes that when it comes to Rosh Hashanah, and people are going to the water to cast out their sins, it's called Tashlich. But the Ari said you shouldn't just go to water. You should go to a place which has fish. Water represents kindness, he says, so it's good to be water. Good to see water at Rosh Hashanah, to start the year by seeing water, because water is a source of life, and it's kind, but you should also go and see fish, because the fish, he says, has an open eye. That open eye of the fish reflects the open eye above. That's what they say. Not so simple.
So the moral is eat fish.
The moral is eat fish, and also to become a little fishy, not fishy. To become a little fishy means to get a little attuned with the idea what the fish represents, with all what we have learned today, or a little bit. And then we can make sure that the mabul will not impact us. It's a big flood out there. And everybody knows the flood is not something which existed only 4,000 years ago. The flood is being now, 21st century, as we see there in the beautiful Bellevue, Washington, the Evergreen State. There's floods of all kinds of meshugas to your internet and to your cell phones, to your newspapers, and to your politicians, and to whatever it is. And we got to protect ourselves. So obviously the first thing is to build an ark. And the ark, says the Baal Shem Tov, means, what's that ark called in Hebrew? Teiva. What's a word called in Hebrew? Teiva. Says the Baal Shem Tov, boy la teiva. Make sure you enter into the words of Torah and Tefillah. This is a simple ark. At the same time, even if you can't somehow don't make it into the ark, at least be a fish, so you're not going to be destroyed. Realize who your source of life is. Realize where you come from. Like the fish who is covered knows that the water is the place where he has to be. Have a good Shabbos, enjoy your fish, everybody. And after the fish, you can also have some meat too. Another time we'll talk about the importance of meat. Tonight we are giving your attention to the fish.
Thank you, Ray.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Very welcome.
Thank you, Rabbi.
All the best.
Thank you,
I
Rabbi
remember David
Farkash.
Schneider many years ago, when the internet was still in the beginning, gave me a printout of all the different kosher fish. Remember fish.kosherfish.com, remember?
Yes,
It still exists.
yes, I've got a copy in Japanese
Thank you.
that I needed to take a couple years ago.
Very good. Thank you very much, everyone.
What?
What else is going on?
Kosher fish.
What's going on in your lives, everybody? Huh? Work? What is that? What do you do?
I'm like him,
I was
programmer.
really-
I work for Facebook.
Facebook.
Yeah.
Facebook is I'm not on Facebook, but it's a good company apparently. My
Oh,
wife,
did you?
my wife is on Facebook. My kids are on Facebook. I was on Facebook for a couple of weeks, and I realized many years ago, and I realized it's not for my nerves. Not for me. I would rather meet the face itself. The face and the. I would rather meet the face and the book, the way they are meant to be originally. But I'm sure that there's a lot of good stuff coming out of Facebook. Very nice. So you work from home, or you have to,
Oh, sorry.
you work from home, or you work. You're very welcome. You work from home, or you work from. Oh yeah, nice. Facebook, I think, is in Brooklyn now. Nice.
They have a few offices. Mine's
Really?
It's like near.
Where? Oh, that's where they have all the technology of.
Yeah.
You also on Facebook? No, you're good. Also on Facebook. Oh wow.
I'm jogging here in Springs.
I'm doing good, I guess. Well, you also on Facebook? No. Very nice. Yes.
There is no elevated offering.